Tonight on Reporting Scotland, economic growth set to slow for the next 5 years, according to new estimates. Hundreds of jobs to go at Annan's biggest employer as the owners of Pinney's fish factory confirm it will close. The Auditor-General says Scotland can no longer rely on part-time firefighters to keep the public safe. We'll hear reaction from the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service and the Fire Brigades Union. Also in the programme, a report recommends that hate crimes should include age and gender hostility, particularly against women. And meet the cardboard cop who's supposed to discourage speeding on a street in Edinburgh.
I get a fright every time I come outside the house. We've only been here for a couple of weeks, so I've not seen much of it, but I don't know, does it work?
Good evening. Downbeat new forecasts for the Scottish economy have prompted a political row at Holyrood. The Scottish Fiscal Commission reckons growth will stay sluggish and the value of wages will go down this year. The Scottish Finance Secretary accused the UK Treasury of holding Scotland in a straitjacket of cuts. But the Tories said the forecasts were devastating and accused the Minister of trying to pass the buck. This from our political editor, Brian Taylor.
Just up the Royal Mile from Holyrood, you can find this new street food market.
Very good people, the Germans.
The stallholders here are upbeat, but also realistic.
Everyone's got dreams, sometimes you've got to work harder at those dreams than others and that, but I mean, if you don't work harder, they're never going to kind of come true, are they?
I live in Scotland from 10 years and every year is better than the previous one, so I think it's good.
How's business?
It's brilliant when it's sunny, and a bit of a struggle when it's a bit rainy and windy. But that's what we're here
It's a metaphor for the economy generally. Isn't
well, yeah, exactly.
So they're pretty hopeful here in the heart of the capital, and across Scotland, employment rates remain high, but the underlying economic figures are sluggish. The latest estimates come from the Scottish Fiscal Commission. They forecast that economic growth in Scotland will remain subdued, below 1% for the next 5 years. Real wages will be down by 0.5% in 2018, only starting to grow slowly in 2020. That means a cut in predicted income tax revenue of £209 million. At Holyrood, Scotland's Finance Secretary set out his forward thinking. Derek Mackay blamed the UK government and an ABC of policies: austerity, Brexit and a curb on migration. He said the low forecasts were down to population and productivity.
Who controls that? The UK right-wing Brexit mad Tory government that are trying to keep me in a fiscal straitjacket so I can't deliver the kind of economic growth that Scotland would wish to see.
Derek Mackay said a change of tack by the Chancellor could release an extra £5 billion to boost Scotland. But the Tories accused him of shifting the blame.
The contrast between the UK government's progress and the dismal performance of the Scottish economy relative to the rest of the UK after 11 years of this government could not be more stark. Last year, our economy grew at half the rate of the rest of the UK and slower than every single EU country.
James Kelly.
Thank you, Presiding Officer.
And Labour urged higher taxes on higher earners.
The SNP continue to pile the agony and the pain onto Scotland's communities. The announcement today will give no comfort to patients waiting for hospital appointments, to parents where schools don't have enough teachers, to passengers stuck at railway stations waiting for trains that do not turn up.
Back at the market, they hope for a pleasant climate, from the weather and from the economy. Brian Taylor, Reporting Scotland, Edinburgh.
Our business and economy editor, Douglas Fraser, is here now. What explains this more downbeat assessment of the Scottish economy?
Well, if we look at the Scottish Fiscal Commission, it exists to provide independent advice to ministers about the state of the economy and the resulting tax revenue that they can expect to bring in. That's all the more important given the income tax powers that Holyrood now has. The Commission is sticking to the forecast for this year's economic growth of 0.7%. Now, that's what it said last December. It's sticking to that, but it's much more pessimistic about the 5-year period, staying very sluggish throughout. Why is that? The Commission's been looking at productivity, that's the amount produced per worker per hour, and the link that that has to wage growth. Both have been very weak. They've looked at the data and actually weaker than they previously thought, which is why these are more pessimistic figures that we've got. The reasons include uncertainty over Brexit and fears about a trade war that's been ramped up today by President Trump. But the specific concerns in Scotland, the weakness of the oil and gas sector, the slow population growth as well, in particular working age population, that begins to fall from this year. And importantly, if the growth isn't there as expected, then the income tax revenue won't be there as expected. And that explains why there's a gap of £209 million forecast in this year's budget.
Douglas Fraser, thank you very much. The Scottish Government say they're now investing an extra £5 million into the city-region deal for Stirling and Clackmannanshire. Both the UK and Scottish governments had originally promised £45 million each over a number of years. Scotland's Economy Secretary Keith Brown says the total investment will deliver more than 5,000 new jobs and help the area's economy to grow. Abuse faced by women online and in the real world has increased significantly in recent years. That's according to a retired judge. In a report published today, Lord Bracadale calls for new laws to combat hostility on the grounds of gender or age. But he's ruled out legislation on sectarianism in football. Our Home Affairs correspondent Rival Alderson reports.
In New York, Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein arrives to be indicted by a grand jury on charges of rape and a criminal sexual act.
The charges here today are a result of months of investigation and deliberate analysis of the evidence and the law.
His actions led to the worldwide Me Too movement, in which women campaign against sexual harassment and assault.
I am making more than 20 recommendations in all.
In Edinburgh, attention was also on crimes against women. Publishing his report, a retired judge is recommending new legislation to outlaw gender hostility, particularly against women.
There's been a significant increase in the abuse and harassment of women, both in the physical world and online. And also, I think, the shift in culture that women are not prepared to put up with conduct which they might have done in the past.
Women's groups had called for a new offence of misogyny, the hatred of women, and they're disappointed the judge hasn't gone as far as that.
Women and girls in Scotland experience epidemic levels of misogynistic harassment in schools and workplaces, in public places and online. So we were very keenly anticipating Lord Bracadale's report. Our understanding of what the evidence suggests around the world is that that's not the best model. We're looking for Scotland to take a bolder, more innovative approach to tackling hate crime.
But a former Minister for Women and Equality has welcomed the report, whose recommendations, she says, are long overdue.
We know that women in particular face significant harassment and abuse in their everyday lives on the basis of their gender, and that is something which should be taken seriously by the police, should be prosecuted accordingly, and that we should also be collecting the data so that we know the scale of the problem.
Lord Bracadale's report also says there's no need for further legislation to combat sectarianism at football matches, arguing existing laws can deal with any offences. Last month, controversial Scottish Government legislation on offensive behaviour at football matches was repealed. Rival Alderson, reporting Scotland.
It's been confirmed that the Pinnies fish factory at Annan is to close with the loss of 450 jobs. The parent company, Young Seafood, say they've not been able to agree a viable alternative. Our reporter Willie Johnson's at the factory for us tonight. What's been the reaction there, Willie?
Sally, I think some resigned inevitability about this, coupled with real concern about the social and economic consequences of Annan losing its biggest employer. You might remember that the decision was blamed initially on 2 supermarket contracts being lost, and also on Young's intention to switch the remaining production lines of fresh salmon from here to a sister plant at Grimsby. Now, an action group was set up to contest that, but the noises coming out all along seem to have been suggesting that Young's mind was made up and they'd stick to their guns. emissions, and that was confirmed by the company today at the end of a 45-day consultation period. During that time, various potential buyers did come forward, and some of them might still be interested, but Young said they'd not been able to agree any viable alternative to closure. As for reaction, well, the local Conservative MP and Scottish Secretary David Mundell described it as devastating. The South of Scotland Labour MSP Colin Smith accused the UK and Scottish governments of presiding over a jobs crisis in this area. And the Business Minister, the Scottish Government's Business Minister Paul Wheelhouse, who's been actively involved in the Pinnies talks, said that while disappointing, they would be continuing tirelessly to try to identify and support potential alternative investors in this site. None of that, though, in any short-term consolation to those tonight facing redundancy notices in the days, weeks and months ahead.
Willie Johnson and Annan, thank you very much indeed. Scotland can no longer rely on part-time retained firefighters to keep the public safe. That's the conclusion of the Auditor-General, who's been assessing Scotland's unified fire service. It's also inherited a spending gap of almost £400 million needed to maintain its current property and equipment. Aileen Clark's been looking at the figures for us and joins us now. Aileen.
Well, let's start with some good news, Sally. In the last 10 years, the number of fires per year in Scotland has fallen by 44%. And the number of people who die in fires has also fallen. There are now around 40 deaths per year. Now, of the 356 fire stations in Scotland, 80% rely to some extent on retained or volunteer firefighters. But now, with people often commuting for work rather than working in their local area, well, there's a major problem recruiting these firefighters. Change has got to come, and soon, is the message from today's report. By the time Glasgow's firefighters were tackling the massive Cheapside Street blaze in 1960, the fire service in Scotland had been up and running for more than a decade. Since then, the equipment may have improved, but the way our service is organised has remained much the same, till the 8 regional services were merged 5 years ago. But now the reliance of the service on so many retained or volunteer firefighters, particularly in rural areas, is being deemed simply not sustainable. There's just a lack of people who have the time or the lifestyle to fulfil those roles.
It's finding it increasingly difficult to recruit retained firefighters and volunteers because people's lifestyles are changing. It's more difficult to make that sort of commitment than it was in the past. And secondly, they've inherited a backlog of about £390 million that's needed to bring their buildings, their vehicles and other equipment up to the standard that's needed these days. And that may require some difficult decisions.
The fire service accept her recommendations, but say they're making some progress in tackling these problems, recently showcasing some new firefighting kit and vehicles, which should help.
That's why we are proposing changes in the distribution of staff across the country, rural full-time posts, to work alongside our on-call colleagues. What we're proposing is embracing new technologies, including high-pressure injection systems. We've bought 33 of these new appliances with that new equipment.
The vision of the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service is to change and adapt to tackle risks like terrorism and severe weather. But the £400 million funding shortfall is concerning the Fire Brigades Union.
I think the desire to transform and the aspirations of the service to transform are partly due to a response to the changing risk in communities across Scotland. But I think what this report clearly indicates and spells out, it's very significantly due to funding.
The Auditor-General report also notes that while the number of fires in general is falling, the number of deliberate fires is rising. With this spell of dry weather, a reminder of the need for, however the fire service reconfigures, the ability to launch an efficient emergency response wherever in the country, whatever the hour, is the challenge the service must rise to. Now remember, at the moment there are 356 fire stations in Scotland. Now that number has not changed since the 8 brigades merged 5 years ago. But while pointing that out, the Chief Fire Officer said today, remember, it wasn't fire stations, but firefighters who put out fires. And there's no reason why a local fire station couldn't be located at a community hub with the ambulance and police, for example.
Thanks very much, Aileen. You're watching BBC Reporting Scotland. It's just coming up to 16 minutes to 7. A reminder of tonight's top story. Economic growth set to slow for the next 5 years, according to new estimates. And still to come, newly promoted Livingston Football Club are looking for a new manager after the departure of boss David Hopkin. The teenage daughter of a woman who's been missing for 6 months is appealing for help to find her. Patricia Henry recently moved to South Ayrshire, but she's originally from Renfrewshire. Police have been searching homes in both Paisley and Girvan. Katie Hunter reports.
A daughter desperate for information about her missing mum. Patricia Henry's family haven't seen or heard from her for 6 months. This morning, her teenage daughter made a public plea for help to find the 46-year-old.
My mum is known as Patty to most people, and I'm worried about her. She's never been so long without getting in touch. If you have any idea where my mum could be, or if you've seen her since she was last reported missing, please let the police know. And Mum, if you see this, please let me know you're okay.
Patricia Henry moved to Girvan in South Ayrshire shortly before she went missing, but she was originally from Renfrewshire. Patricia Henry lived here in Paisley until October last year. Officers have been searching this address and speaking to neighbours to try and find out what's happened to her. Police Scotland are still treating her disappearance as a missing persons inquiry, but detectives say they can't rule out something more sinister. Patricia has previously been reported missing while she was living abroad, but police have carried out passport checks and say there's no sign of her leaving the country.
Patricia's been missing for 6 months, which is very unusual for her to go that period of time without speaking to any family or friends. In addition to that, we have no sign of any movement on any of Patricia's telephone accounts, bank accounts or her social media accounts.
Alana hopes today's public appeal will lead to her mum being found safe and well. Katie Hunter, Reporting Scotland, Paisley.
Football and newly promoted Livingston are looking for a new manager. David Hopkin says he needs a new challenge and he's left less than a fortnight after leading the West Lothian club back into Scottish football's top flight for the first time in more than 10 years. Caradine Idsan reports.
He led Livingston to one of the surprise success stories of the season.
It is back-to-back promotions for David Hopkin and for Livingston Football Club, who end a 13-year hiatus from the Premiership.
Roundly applauded for getting Livingston back into the top flight of Scottish football, David Hopkin has decided not to take on the challenge of keeping them up. So why is he leaving? The club declined to be interviewed but said in a statement his decision's not the consequence of an unacceptable offer or budget, but is based purely on personal circumstances, which we fully respect and acknowledge. But after scaling the mountain, why not hang around and enjoy the view? This fellow manager suggests that in football, as in life, timing is everything.
He'll know that his profile and his reputation will never be higher than it is right now, and you know, unless Livingston were willing to throw a lot of money at things, and that's got that club into trouble in the past, it would be really hard for them next season. So he's obviously going to try and strike while the iron's hot. You know, there's a number of vacancies elsewhere, a couple in England as well, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him turning up somewhere down south.
The Livingston board's expected to meet tomorrow to discuss who should succeed him. The departing Livy boss also declined the offer of a BBC interview, but said in a statement, "After a great 3.5 seasons, I feel it's now time for me to seek a new challenge. The team spirit and togetherness created by the players and staff will always be special to me. You fans deserve to be watching your team at all the top clubs in the country." So with the departure of St Mirren's Jack Ross to Sunderland, it means both clubs promoted from the Championship are currently managerless as they try to prepare for life in the Premiership. And it also means 2 available jobs in Scotland's top flight for those who dare to board the managerial merry-go-round. Caradine Idsan, Reporting Scotland.
Scotland's Cameron Norrie has failed in his bid to reach the 3rd round of the French Open tennis. He lost in 4 sets to the 15th seed Lucas Pouille. The French number one was leading by 2-1 when bad light stopped play last night. After they resumed, Norrie forced a tie-break but was unable to take the match into a deciding fifth set. 66 pen and ink drawings made by a German prisoner of war in Scotland in the 1940s have been presented to the trust who now run the camp in which he was detained. The unknown artist was one of 4,000 German prisoners of war in Cultibragan camp near Comrie. Our arts correspondent Pauline McLean reports.
Welcome to Cultibragan camp.
A guided tour of Camp 21. In the 1940s, this Perthshire site was home to 4,000 German prisoners of war. And some of these visitors have been here before. Pam and Joy's father, Captain William Makins, was second in command here when they visited in 1943.
So we'd come up here, but we weren't allowed any further. But we,
I don't reckon we walked as far as this.
Well, but we knew the prisoners. We could see the prisoners, and they all worked in the fields around the camp.
At the end of the war, Captain Makins returned home with a vivid snapshot of life in the camp. 66 drawings made by a German prisoner. Ernst Krebs believes they're an accurate depiction, and he should know he was detained here in 1943 when he was 19 years old.
The big thing for us, all the young fellows, we always volunteered for fatigues in the cookhouse, peeling potatoes, and we got a big tin of porridge. I mean, that was the reason.
You like the porridge?
And I still like porridge. Have it every morning.
In 2007, the site was taken over by Comrie Development Trust and is now run as a heritage attraction. They already had copies of the drawings, but now they have the original collection.
I think he would have brought it himself, had there been somebody to receive it.
It's when we heard that this was
when I knew there was definitely a trust. I said, that's the home.
And with it, the mystery of the artist known only as Peter. The trust hope the book's return will help them find out more. Pauline McLean, reporting Scotland, Cultibragan.
Oh, great story. He's known as Pop-Up Bob, a cutout of a police officer with a speed gun designed to discourage speeding. But some residents of the Edinburgh street where he's currently deployed say they'd much rather see real officers. Police say the cutout is not to replace genuine officers, but just one of a range of measures. Gillian Sharp reports.
Meet the latest Bobby on the streets in this part of Edinburgh's West End. Road diversions for sewer works mean this street can be busier than normal. Cut-out police officers like Bob have been used in different areas across the country. A visual reminder, say police, to drive responsibly. The council says it's worked with the community to address traffic concerns. Views of Bob among local residents are mixed.
Anybody who doesn't know the area and just to see the top of his head, I think it still has some effect. But obviously, all the people who regularly drive, the public transport and the taxis and the rest of it, they know it's here.
It doesn't take much to fool you that it's a real person. And then, when you walk up close to it, it's awfully small for a policeman. That's probably politically incorrect. Policemen can be any size nowadays, can't they?
I get afraid every time I come outside the house. We've only been here for a couple of weeks, so I've not seen much of it. But I don't know, does it work?
It's better than nothing, but a real policeman would be better. Or several policemen patrolling or whatever, or even a police car.
This isn't the only cardboard cutout police officer trying to combat speeding in the city. There are 3 others. The council won't say where they are, though. It wants to keep the element of surprise. Gillian Sharp, reporting Scotland, Edinburgh.
Timeline's over on BBC 2 at 7:30 tonight. Shireen and Glenn can tell us what's coming up.
Tonight, if you're fed up with recycling, we're finding out how to make it easier as recycling rates rise across Scotland.
Shetlanders have long been annoyed at being put in a box on maps, but will politicians' moves to ban that work?
And how these rickshaw rides are helping tackle loneliness. We'll speak to the people, young and old, taking part.
That's Timeline, 7:30, BBC 2 Scotland.
In the meantime, let's see what the weather's got in store. Here's Chris.
Sally, thank you. Hello there, good evening to you. Another beautiful afternoon in the northwest. Sunshine, blue skies. This was Gairloch earlier. The paddle steamer Waverley alongside. But for many of us, it's been rather cloudy, rather grey, although a little more cheerful at the moment with some late evening sunshine. Tonight, any showers in the northwest fade and most having a dry night, but that low cloud returns once again for the North Sea coast and drifting through the Firth of Forth, the Firth of Tay, extensive for the Northern Isles, a mild night. Tomorrow, a very different story. We need to look south of the border to understand what's coming our way. Here's the rainfall radar from earlier through England and Wales. Thundery downpours moving their way northwards. And it's that same air mass, that same volatility that's coming our way tomorrow. So we have a Met Office yellow be aware warning in force for frequent thunderstorms, torrential at times with some large hail. You'll notice it's a dry start, some early brightness around, that low cloud burning back to the coast, but then late morning, lunchtime, afternoon, the showers begin, and they will be heavy. There will be thunder, lightning, and indeed some heavy and large hail. But they are showers, not everyone's going to see them. There'll be some sunshine out with them, quite a humid feel, but the winds are very light, so if you do catch one, it could be with you for some time. Very difficult conditions on the roads where they occur, the potential for some localised flash flooding, and at times they'll sort of merge together into lines, so you could get 1, 2, 3, 4 in a row. Further north, reasonably dry, but that low cloud through Orkney and Shetland fairly stubborn to clear. Rest of the afternoon into the evening, and the showers still with us for a time, only very slowly fading away. And so to the weekend. Saturday, a rerun really. It's a dry start for many, a cloudy start, and the showers get going late morning and through the afternoon. The focus of them probably north of the central lowlands, but still expect 1 or 2 for central and southern Scotland. Again, some hail and thunder. Again, a humid feel. And then Sunday, the second half of the weekend, fairly cloudy, reasonably dry actually, still 1 or 2 showers around, but a brighter day in prospect for central and southern Scotland. Some sunshine coming through and temperatures into the low 20s. And then into next week, high pressure trying to build in from the northwest, but it's not a particularly strong area of high pressure. What it will do, hopefully, just calm the atmosphere down and hopefully keep us dry. That's the forecast for now.
Thanks very much, Chris. A reminder now of tonight's main news. The Financial Conduct Authority wants to crack down on high-cost credit, an issue affecting more than 3 million people in the UK. It's outlined plans to cap prices in the rent-to-own market, where people buy furniture or appliances with weekly or monthly payments, but at a high interest rate. Downbeat new forecasts for the Scottish economy have prompted a political row at Holyrood. The Scottish Fiscal Commission reckons growth will stay sluggish and the value of wages will go down this year. The Scottish Finance Secretary accused the UK Treasury of holding Scotland in a straitjacket. The Tories said the forecasts were devastating. And that's Reporting Scotland. I'll be back with the late bulletin just after the 10 o'clock news. Until then, from everyone in the team, have a very good evening.